whenever you're ready.
I was attempting to do that, as Lynn said, as soon as I pulled over.
Okay.
Just give me a second. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I didn't want to go in and out. That's a little frustrating. So everybody, welcome. I've been on with Lynn about since 5:45 and realized that this was scheduled for 6. I don't know why I had it in my head for 6:30 for this time. And I'm commuting from work, which always work. So Lorraine, welcome. Dave, David, Brian, Donna, and Barbara's here. Wanted to start the meeting off quickly with having an opportunity to debrief from the day, and if anybody had any reflection as it relates to their daily walk and clearing their minds as they take on this task called the Bloomfield Humanities. I can start with myself. As we go into this this new year, this electoral race, and what that means for the town, but also what it means for the committee, I have to really decompress and compartmentalize a lot of things to recognize the reason why I'm charged to do this work and what the mission of this work is for the town. And for me, it's really about providing support to a town that has really helped cultivate me as a responsible adult. And so I have to keep that in the center of my thought process. Sometimes when I get frustrated on certain things, and you want so many things to happen and you have so many hopes and dreams, but the pace might not be fast enough for you, or it might be too slow. So I just have to kind of decompress and reflect on what the general purpose is. So that is my thought process. And I will pass it to Barbara.
I
Okay.
no longer have a thought process. I just do it as I feel.
I know that's not true, but okay.
Barbara, you want to pass it to someone?
Certainly, I'll pass it to Donna.
Okay, so I can say that I interviewed for the Mosaic Project Sandra Brown today, and just as she was a delight in the Voices of Bloomfield panel, she was really delightful in this interview. And what was really nice was what she said about her feeling about Bloomfield was that it's home, and it's home for her. She was able to raise her children. One of them still lives here. She talked about the joy of seeing her kids go to the same school she went to. So there was that whole sense of place was really inspiring to hear about. And so I do think, Meredith, that certainly I can get frustrated by the slow pace of things. But this is a really special place. And I was quite inspired to keep going and to keep doing whatever I can, to bring out the goodness in the town. And I will bounce to Steve.
Thanks, Donna. Basically, I've been on the periphery of the Mosaic Project. I originally wanted to introduce my neighbor, Steve Robb, who's tied in with the Hartford Jewish Community Center with this project, and he was all for it. And I continue to remain on the periphery, pretty much as one of your foot soldiers if you need something done in terms of connecting people. But me actually doing the interviewing, that was never part of my
Mhm.
plan.
Mhm.
And I'm sticking to my guns, and I think you guys are doing a great job. And if you need me, pull me in.
Thanks.
Is there anyone else to pass it to? Lorraine?
Wusa, good evening, everyone. I think I don't have a thought process. I think my thought process is very jumbled right now. But I think to echo Meredith's sentiments, I think it's really good, and I think I'm combining a little bit with what Meredith said with Donna's experience today. That sometimes, if we allow ourselves to view what we're called to do or what we're charged to do on a if we take a look at what's going on, sometimes we can get distracted, right? And so we have to focus on our future outcome rather than the present outlook. And I think if we keep that in mind and keep our focus on that, we can have the greatest impact and not be so moved by what we see.
Mhm. Mm.
And I believe the last person to present would be David.
I I resonate with what Lorraine just said. Some of us at the Congregational Church have been reading a book called Nice Racism, which is addressed to white people, trying to help us come to grips with our white privilege. But we've also been reading articles from the New York Times and magazines. And last week, I read several articles about Black townships that were burned to the ground, either because white people wanted their property or because of unsubstantiated charges of rape. You know, a Black man supposedly raped a white woman, and therefore you burned the whole town down. It just amazes me that Black people still believe in this country. I think I would have left a long time ago. But I do think we need to look at the future and not get hung up by the terrible mistakes that have been made in the past. And thankfully, I think Bloomfield has a better future than a lot of other places in America.
We lost Meredith. I was just waiting for a moment not to overstep, but I don't see her now. Okay, why don't I give an overview? Mine is the first piece on the old business. So while she's calling back in, and when she does, I'll stop and we'll go back to the order of the agenda. So in terms of the Bloomfield Mosaic, first of all, Steve, your support is felt, so thank you. We certainly recognize that everybody can't do everything, and you've done a whole lot of other things for this group. So I don't want you to be concerned. Sometimes I know that the Mosaic project takes up all the energy in the space, and it really shouldn't, because it's one of the many things that we're doing. But since it's my topic on the agenda, I will say that we have good news, I think. At the end of August, there was a meeting that Brian set up with the town manager and some of the folks on the finance team. And so we were able to nail down a process by which the town can accept money and then send out money to cover expenses that will be related to our putting on an exhibition in the spring. We confirmed that we're not looking to the town for any money. We are looking to outside sponsors. And to that end, Brian's been working with the finance team to set up what the process will be. And he has put together the informational sheet, which was sent out to you folks a little bit earlier today. Excuse me. And I'm going to ask him to talk about, because it's really great work. And I will say, though, that both myself and Fiona had a chance to take a look at this and to offer a couple of suggestions and recommendations. The idea is that we would go to places like, and I know we've named some places a few times, so I'm not going to name them again, but there are places in town that we think would be willing to give us some funds. And what we'd like to do is to raise $5,000 and then submit, or up to $5,000, submit a request for a grant, a matching grant. And that would fund not only the panels of the exhibition, which we've talked about before, but it would give us some funds for extra panels. And it would also give us some funds for, whatever kind of celebration. And we'll, of course, pick Meredith's brain on that when we get to the planning. But Brian, do you want to kind of tell them about how you set this up and sort of the thought process around that?
Sure. As Donna said, I think we made some really good progress in that meeting. And then her and I've had some subsequent meetings to kind of nail down timelines, really figure out the best way to go about this project. And I'm going to wait for Meredith to finish jumping on. Welcome back.
Hello. So I sent I don't know where we're at in the progress, but I sent Donna a text.
Oh, well, that's what we were doing. So I gave a little bit of an overview of the meeting that we had with the town manager that Brian had set up, and the fact that we are getting a process set in place. And then Brian was just
a text that say if she can present it, and Donna, can you execute it then present the mosaic? I should be in a stable place by then.
okay. Okay, so Brian, you can continue, I think.
Okay. So following our first meeting with finance, getting all those ducks in a row, we got that taken care of. Then Donna and I met, I want to say in early September, and we wanted to come up with a plan of action, really kind of focusing on that grant deadline and then working backwards from it, because it's obviously really important for us that we have these funds not necessarily secure, but at least kind of agreed upon, that we're going to get them. So just to give you a quick timeline, I'm doing this off my head, Donna, because I did not bring this piece of paper home, but the grant's due on Friday, November 3rd.
Yes.
We are looking to have everything completed from a form standpoint by the beginning of that week, which then means we want to have our funding secured about 10 days before that, which is October 20th. But in order to do that, we want to make sure that, and I'm going to share the flyer, but I want to make sure that we have the blessing of the group, whether if you take it to a vote, to make sure that this is the way we want to go, that we're okay with the flyer. And if we get the groups okay today, then Donna and I are going to begin to start setting up dates or meetings with some of these local areas. So I am going to, hold on one second here. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so I did send this out early this afternoon, but I do know that not everybody gets to their email during the day. So, but I did want you guys to get eyes on it if you can. So just kind of going through it real quick. Donna, we made a little bit of
can I just, can I have a comment right from the beginning?
Yeah.
Nowhere on, so on this flyer, and Don and I talked about this briefly as it relates to branding. And again, that flyer says Our Town Bloomfield Mosaics Project. It does not say Bloomfield Humanities. You don't see, so again, as this is unveiled, right there with the branding, it doesn't say Bloomfield Humanities. You see, this is a town event, which it is a town event under Bloomfield Humanities, and Bloomfield Humanities is part of the town. But my concern is this. It's a Bloomfield Humanities project, and that is not what the branding of that looks like. And to be quite honest and transparent, and I've had, and Donna and I might have a difference of opinion of this, but it's actually the development of this. I think, can you hear me?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll let you go forward in that presentation before we open that up as it relates to discussion and branding. I'm sorry, Brian.
No, it's no problem. So yeah, we came up kind of with just a little bit of a logo just to kind of brand the project. We got kind of a testimonial from the mayor. I spoke to her about the project last week when her and I were meeting, so she's very excited to see this moving forward. And then we just a little bit of what the Bloomfield Mosaics project is, the collaborative effort between the Humanities Committee, Winton-Berry Historical Society, and then the University of Connecticut, the Engaged Public Oral and Community Histories. So we went through this with Fiona. Was that on Friday we met? Yeah, Friday morning. Don and I met with Fiona. And then a little bit about what the exhibition is. And obviously the exhibition is still a very blank slate. We can kind of make it what we want it to be. But just, what is it, and why do sponsors want to be a part of it? So we put that in there, letting them know it's an evergreen exhibition, so that, that this sponsorship, this donation, it has a really long shelf life. We can exhibit these panels for as long as we want in as many places as we want. That's the opportunity that we have. And then we just picked a couple different, and I know there's a big jump here with the numbers, but we just kind of picked a couple larger ones that we thought either companies or individuals would be interested in. At the end of the day, I think asking for $5,000 to be a presenting sponsor is actually relatively cheap in the grand scheme of things. But we don't know what we're going to get. We don't know what the commitment is, so we don't want to shut anybody out. So these were just numbers that we put together with some input from Fiona from some other exhibitions that she did. And then from there, really the donations will come into town hall, just to mention my name, just so I make sure they're going into the right spot. But then I want to make sure Donna gets the questions so she can do the hard work.
So Meredith, before you start and before we open this to discussion, I just want to mention that you and I had our conversation on Saturday, and this was developed on Friday. So what I will say about this is that we were focusing really principally on a whole lot of questions about levels and sponsorship and what made sense, and that we did not really give very much thought to branding, Bloomfield Humanities branding. I don't know what we have as a brand. I had wanted to try to get some activity on that a few months ago, but we couldn't get it together because we just had so many other things that people were focusing on. So, I mean, I'm not at all opposed to us developing a brand and putting it on this. We do have a need to move forward. So I guess I'm interested in hearing from you, obviously, and from others about, are we talking about are we talking about making Bloomfield Humanities Committee more prominent on this, or are we really talking about some kind of brand / logo that shows up here and then starts to show up in other places? What would be your view of what you would like to see?
I would like for other people to kind of weigh in first, because I have a strong opinion, and sometimes my opinion is to just an opinion that may not be founded. So I'd like to hear other people's weigh in, and it'll also give me a time to get in a solid space so I won't go in and out.
Okay.
Well, I will throw out that if we think that it helps in this top area here, putting in this headline presented by the Bloomfield Humanities Committee, I have no problem. I think that's an easy, or even as if we push up this Bloomfield Mosaics project, and then we say, I don't know, Bloomfield Humanities Committee presentation, something that I'm just speaking off the top of my head right now, but getting the committee name in this top section, that's an easy fix.
Yeah, something like Bloomfield Mosaics Project of the Bloomfield Humanities Committee. I mean,
I think I want to be able to have a conversation. Okay, that's great. I'm sorry. I can't even. I said other people weigh in, and there I'm about to jump in the way.
So I'm wondering, just a thought, and maybe this is I'm struggling with why the branding, right? We're not a separate entity outside of the town. I'm trying to figure out other committees, like what other committees for the town would need to do like a specific level of branding. I am sort of neutral on this either way. So I'm just trying to figure out why would we have to have that push to have a branding as a committee separate from it?
Well, I can just say my thought was really raised a few months ago when we were going to march. David and I marched in the Memorial Day parade, and we had nothing to walk with, so that's where my initial thought was. No banner, no whatever, which is neither here nor there. I mean, it's sort of, I think it'd be useful to have something. Well, that's all I'll say about that part. Oh, and one other thing, Lorraine, I think about the Trees for Bloomfield effort, which
Bingo.
is,
I was Donna. I was thinking the same. I wasn't thinking Trees for Bloomfield. I was thinking CEEC and Trees for Bloomfield. But go ahead.
well, that's all. It's just an example of another committee that's kind of ad hoc in a status like ours. I think Trees for Bloomfield maybe, but anyway, but
I understand Meredith's concern because the Humanities Committee is spearheading this project. And after that is done, hopefully the Humanities community will spearhead other projects. But nowhere on here would you get the impression I mean, it reads very well, but if you don't say it, nobody knows it. And I understand that to be Meredith's concern, that we are an active committee. And this is one of the things that we're doing right now. And something else will come after this project.
And so let me, can you still hear me?
yes.
Steve, did you weigh in or did you have a weigh in?
No, I haven't weighed in yet. I'm not that concerned with the branding. I do think we should have Humanities Committee on there. My big concern is raising funds. not too many people want to write checks to the town of Bloomfield right now. Is there any way we could have partner or anything with a 501c3 that checks could be written to them? Because a lot of people in town feel that the budget's been mismanaged, and why should I give you a check for $100 or $500 to this humanities committee if they can't even, if the town can't even manage their own finances properly? I'm just being devil's advocate, guys. I'm all for what we're doing and I love Mosaic, but this is what's going to be, these are the headwinds you got to expect to hit in fundraising.
Well, Steve, oddly enough,
Meredith, we lost you. It was going to be really good too.
While we're waiting for her, the second paragraph calls this an evergreen exhibition. I'm not familiar with that phrase. What does that mean?
Evergreen is that it doesn't have a shelf. It doesn't have an end date. We can use it for as long as we want. We can add to it.
Ongoing.
Continuum.
It's ongoing. That's kind of, I thought that was kind of important for us to let people know that, it's not like there's just going to be one night of a, and then all of a sudden, no one's going to see their logo anymore.
Yeah, that's important.
Steve,
I
can
think
you
if, I'm sorry, Donna.
No, go ahead, Barbara.
No, just looking at the flyer, and the flyer is nice, but up there where it says our town is where I would put Bloomfield Humanities Committee presents or something like that.
Yeah.
Because if you don't see it, you got to read down several lines to find out. Otherwise, if I didn't know it, I would think this was an independent project put on by who? Led by who? Led by the town. Which when you think of, if you think of the town, you think of something from the manager's office or some department, not a committee, an ad hoc committee.
I like that, Barbara. So my suggestion, Brian, would be larger font for Bloomfield Humanities Committee in the space where you currently have our town, and then Bloomfield Mosaics project where it is.
Right. So basically, the way, I understand how it's being said. Just from a design standpoint, it's our town, our stories is kind of the tagline of the project, which it's Donna and I. So what we can do is we can put that on one line on the bottom and then put Bloomfield Humanities Committee presents. I can mock it up while we're talking and show it to you guys if you want.
Yeah, I think that would be good. My only other thought, and I realize I'm really micromanaging, but the thought is make the Bloomfield Humanities Committee in an even larger font, if you can do that. To really give it a little more prominence in addition to making it the top thing that you see.
Okay. While we're talking, I am going to mock that up and I'll make sure to share my screen so you can all see it.
Are there any other comments about, I think my perspective is that's it's a nice middle ground, given what Barbara and Meredith were talking about. And I think David had some concerns or comments around the same thing, which gives some credit, but we don't have to worry about, logo and brand, the way I think about logo and branding. We just make sure that that this committee is front and center because we've had I think a primary role in working through this and presenting, and we certainly have the role in the exhibition of it. which is going to get started now once we get started on the sponsorship sourcing. But Steve, while we're waiting for, Meredith.
I'm here.
Okay. Steve, can you say a little bit more about feedback that you're getting with regard to the town?
I
And what
just think
kinds of sponsors?
Yeah,
Are we
I'm
talking
just,
about companies or?
yeah, unless you go after big fish like the banks, all the banks that are represented in town, Insignia Corporation. I'm not sure if there's a plan to go ahead to target certain organizations and companies
Yeah.
for funds. You have to be very careful if you're saying, make checks payable to town of Bloomfield. That's why I suggested a 501c3, but Meredith, I know you can enlighten us.
I
on
can't,
this.
Steve. And what
Yes, you
I
can.
look, before I have a comment, Lorraine, you had another question or a statement?
I think, Steve, to your point, if we're able to target some of the people groups that we are going to showcase, i.e., I'm thinking just off the top of my head, the West Indian Foundation, certain groups like that, because it's going to help tell and share their stories where
Right.
they
Oh,
have
yeah.
I think that's going to be, I understand your point with maybe individual donations, but if we are able to showcase the larger scale of, at the end of the day, politics is going to always play a part in who we are. However, that is
Right.
not the end all and be all of who we are.
Right. No, well
Okay.
said.
Oh,
I think that Reverend Fisher at the Congregational Church had already expressed an interest in being one of the sponsors. Since I'm a member of that church, I would be very happy if you want to approach Sean, but if you think the request should come from somebody else, that's fine too. But
No, so I would like
Okay,
to say something about that. I actually I have mentioned the church, as I've mentioned Doncaster and, some of the sort of the group of people, the companies and the associations, locations, different things like that are here in Bloomfield. But apparently we can't be soliciting sponsorships from the churches or any religious organization. So we do have to keep that separate, is some guidance that we got. So it would just be, again, the other groups, which is not to say that we won't ask you and Pastor Sean and others to help with communicating when it's time, right, for us to be planning our opening, but.
or offering
can you-
space.
can
be
can
held
I-
in a church, or is that taboo too?
can I, Lorraine, are you finished? Len, can you put Lorraine's hand down? So a point of protocol, couple of points of protocol, I think is important. Until this committee, thank you, Donna, for all you've done, and David, as it relates to the collaboration with the Wittenberg Historical Society. And thank you, Brian, as the community liaison. And I emphasize those roles so that we could recognize what everyone's roles really are. And that being said, a nice old lady who used to work for the town that I've known for a very long time, over 20 years, had always informed me that you have to be careful about organizational proprietorship and good project development and thought processes, because we are in a very wonderful town that loves to absorb good projects. And I can say without a shadow of a doubt that this organization has been 100% politically driven, to my dismay. Since 2017, it's really based on the appointership from the mayor, and if we were found to be a valid organization. And when the new mayor got into position, and I'm landing the plane essentially, we were informed that our charter was too large. It was too overcompassing, and it had really not a lot of tangible tasks that could be completed. And shameless plug, I wrote the initial charter that Madam President Suzette DeBethan Brown used for the previous committee. The new mayor suggested that was too overwhelming, overcompassing, and Donna and I sat and whittled that down and presented that to the committee at the time, such that we could move forward. And even, and Mayor Wang still was saying, as she, built the town, and her vision felt like we needed an anchor, something really concrete and tangible that we could use as an anchor and to build off of. And had just gone to this exhibit in Winbury and saw Fiona, and thought that the story of the West Indian migration and prosperity in Windsor was a good focus that Windsor used. And we, and I will say I suggested that in Bloomfield, let's use Fiona, talk about the West Indian prosperity, but also talk about other populations in Bloomfield who have prospered. I won't be able to participate in any other further movement, but the VP can surely take this over. And that's what the VP has moved and had, was at the front door with a team of folks to go to the exhibit and really kind of whittle down and come up with this vision of Bloomfield Mosaic. I give that historical background to say Community Awareness Task Force, which was just that, to make the community aware of certain things. It wasn't just culture. It was a lot of things in the community back in 2017, and Barbara could give a history back to 1994. But anyway, and then it evolved to the Bloomfield Humanities Committee, with Mayor Wong suggesting that her thought process was to really focus on cultural events. And Bloomfield Mosaic was one of the projects that could enlist that. Now, when you think of a mosaic, what is a mosaic? It's like a combination of beautiful things, whether it's voices, colors, stories. It's a beautiful pictorial brand for me. And that was Donna and that group of people came up with a beautiful essence. So as it relates to the branding, Lorraine, to speak to your specific question, we absolutely, I mean, me as someone who, chairs the organization, the development of this concept that in the heart of hearts, I believe is a structural piece to bring back the community back together. The people who have been interviewed, the Sandra Browns, who remembers when, the people who have been interviewed fails me right now, but all of these people who can talk about the past and the present, and our goal of really coming together in a beautiful mosaic, to me, is Bloomfield Humanities. Bloomfield Mosaic is a capture of everything we're doing, the homage of the Holocaust, the homage of Juneteenth, the homage of Pride, the homage of Hispanic heritage, which is just the beginning. hopefully thinking that we could pay the homage of the indigenous people and the homage of so many different, the East Indian population growth, but those 5 are just the beginning. So for me to have a legacy of where this organization has been and where it's going and where Bloomfield is going, coming back together as one, for me, it's absolutely important to have branding. And again, Donna was out there and Lorraine was out there in 2019 we spent, time and energy on branding on that. Donna called a couple of days before the parade and said, we really want to march in the parade. We don't have anything. We'll just march. We really need something. And then now, as we go forward, and I've been stuck on this vision, how this vision is going to lay itself out for a very long time. I'm hoping that, and I say and I feel really inappropriate in saying that because it's always we, but I'll say I for now until you all buy into it, if you all buy into it. I'm hoping that the product that is completed, people will walk away with that vision and those voices and those pictures in their heads and ears. And that starts to me with a branding concept. Just like CEEC and Trees for Bloomfield, which is, I love to reference them because they're committees that give their blood, sweat, and tears all the time. It's nonstop. And so that's why I think, to answer your question, Lorraine, branding is so important, because there was a lot of things put into this. And I think that this committee now, it is stable. It has feet and it's growing roots. And I think that we need to honor that and we need to brand that. And even if it doesn't grow, and even if it's not this committee, that Bloomfield mosaic is going to be evergreen, as Brian says. So I was very, 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 Don and I had to separate a little bit, because I had a thought process that I was very obsessed with some things about, listen, this is Bloomfield, it's not UConn, it's not, and so I had to settle down, because I said, you know what, Meredith, let the fiduciaries deal with certain things. And that has happened with Brian and Donna. And Steve, what I was saying when my phone crashed, and I said, maybe that's my father saying, you don't need to say that. But Father, I'm saying it anyway. When Donna said, Donna and I were briefly talking about it, I said, well, you know what? I like to know what Steve has to say, because he knows, he has all the subject matter expertise, and I want to see what he had to say. Donna, do you remember me saying that?
Yep.
And so,
No, I'm all for branding. I get that. That's a no-brainer, to have Bloomfield Humanities.
But the fiscal piece,
That's
is very important. And it's great that we have the buy-in and we have all our T's crossed and our periods dotted as it relates to the fiscal buy-in. But I 100% understand that, but I haven't said it because I've given Donna the business for 6 months about these finances. And now we have the weigh-in. But coming from a human service field and knowing the fiscal devastation that we're in, and knowing that we're going to ask folks to contribute. I think that there are big organizations out there, Lorraine, that can contribute, and it is not an issue. However, I haven't heard how we plan on doing our outreach. And so I'd like to hear that.
Okay. Let me tell you,
Okay.
Let me just tell you.
Mhm,
So Brian and I
mhm.
are going to go and knock on some corporate doors. We're going to probably go, and they won't be cold calls because we're first going to be looking to who has the connections with these organizations. We're going to go to Doncaster. We're going to go to Seabury. We're probably going to go to a bank or two. And some of this is going to depend on how we do and who gives us money. We're not going to be going for unlimited dollars, but for those kinds of organizations, $2,000, $2,500 should not be a problem. We have to sell them on the mission. We have to sell them on the view of it, bringing Bloomfield together, being an evergreen exhibit, as Brian said, having the ability, if they want to be a presenting sponsor, to showcase the panels and bring it to their location. So for example, if we go to Cigna, they have a chance to put it in their hallways.
But Donna, let me interrupt for a minute. You're presenting this for a vote to say you're going to do that, right?
Yes,
Oh.
you asked the question of how is this going
Okay.
to happen?
Okay.
And so I'm trying to explain, we have on here friends at $25 or more. And that is just because if someone wants to give us some money, that's what we will accept it. We are not going, this was something that we tried to make clear from the very early days. We are not going out to the community to request funds from people. If someone hears about it and wants to make a donation, great. We want to have a mechanism to accept and collect the money. And we want to answer the question of what do I get? Do you know what I mean? We want to be proactive in thinking that through. But essentially, we're really looking for a couple of $2,500 sponsors or a $5,000 sponsor. And you know what? If we get a $5,000 sponsor, we're done. We may bring this up a little bit later if it looks like we need additional funds, but the point is we don't know. We don't know how we're going to be received. We think we have a really good story and a good product, and it's
Who's the we?
Brian and me.
I will also mention that we have tangible exhibit panels. Fiona gave us panels from previous exhibits that will bring with us, so they can actually see what it would look like. And then also the printer that she uses is a Bloomfield business. So we're going to reach out to them. It's XL color, and let them know that it's their town. It's their town that they're going to be working on this time. Maybe there'll be some in-kind service.
But Brian, how do
know.
we know that? We don't know any of what you're saying.
I agree, but we will only know if we ask. We'll only
I
know
don't
if we
understand,
try.
Meredith. What don't we know?
We don't know it. I mean, so I'm assuming that, and Donna, you know this is before Brian got involved. We really wanted to see what those panels looked like. Some of us said that we did not like the panels that we saw. So that was a big deal for us. I will say for me, I'll speak for me generally. And we talked about those panels and how they would be utilized, color schemes, us getting our own graphic designs. We talked about that, such that once it came to that vision, I would assume that we were going to come forward. Not that I would assume, we talked about all of that when we did
we talked about and we talked with Fiona. How much is it if we get our own designer? How much? We worked through all of that. We made her give us specific numbers, and then Brian said at one point, if you can get UConn to do this for these prices, that's great. So we're not at the point where we're designing panels. We have a panel that was done before so that we can bring a physical, tangible thing with us as we go to speak to potential sponsors to say, it's going to be 15 of these or 12 of these. And some of them are going to be demographic, but here's what some of the others are going to, you can feel it, you can touch it, it will hang on the wall. So we wanted to have something tangible to bring. So that was the idea. So you saying that we didn't like the design of the earlier panels, we haven't crossed that bridge yet. We still have the ability for input into design. And bringing a panel to a sponsor isn't gonna sway that issue one way or another.
Donna, and Brian, what
I
is your,
guess my concern is, and I want to be real clear and concrete, before this fiscal tour goes out, this committee needs to review it and move forward on it. And I think you guys did a wonderful job and has done a lot of work. But say, for instance, people who are involved in the community on a regular and consistent basis need to also know what it looks like. I think that's a great plan. And I am sure that you're doing the footwork now for it. And I'm quite sure that, Donna, you are the queen of tangible information. So I'm assuming that you're presenting it now in this meeting, and that before it goes out, there will be like a strategic plan on what organizations, because I'm assuming you're not going to be knocking on doors. That's just a figure of speech that you have probably a number of organizations that you're going to target. So this is just a broad stroke presentation that you're presenting now with the
Well, it is and it isn't, okay? Because first of all, we need approval, so we do have to vote. This is the end of September. We've been talking about trying to do this for a long time. We've discussed in our meetings, and we can go back through the notes of what some of the sponsorships might be. We've talked about the church. We've talked about Doncaster. We've talked about Cigna. We've talked about the banks in town. Then none of that is new. Those are on our plan. You talk about a strategic plan. What it sounds like to me is you want me to write down what we've already said multiple times. And I'm happy to do that, but I don't want that to slow us down. What I would like to have us do is to vote that we can go forward. And because this is the only time we're going to be together, and we haven't presented anything new except this, which is a representation of what Brian and I have been talking about in the background. So the idea of asking for funding levels and putting that actually in place, that piece is new. Some of the other things are not new. We're pulling them back from earlier discussions. We know that we're not going out to individuals. We now know that we can't go to the church. We're going to big pocket places. We're not doing anything that the town doesn't know about. We're using the town's contacts. We're not going out as, rogue or whatever. So all of those things are things that we've talked about before.
Okay. What is the Bloomfield Mosaics project? Focused on telling the story of Bloomfield by highlighting three important groups of residents: our Jewish, African American, and West Indian communities. The Bloomfield, which is funded by Connecticut, is a collaboration between that whole piece right there. I don't think that this is a good, I think that this should probably, my thought process is, why couldn't we just say focused on telling the story of Bloomfield residents by highlighting the richness and diversity of the community? I think when you start naming populations, you leave out other populations.
But that's what this is. That's why when you say that Bloomfield Mosaic is the culmination of everything else we're doing, it's not. It is a piece of what we're doing, and it is a focus on these three communities, because there are other people whose names have been put forward and we've said, nope, we're focusing on these communities. Because
Donna, do you know Barbara's ethnicity?
Barbara?
Yeah.
Barbara Williams?
Mm-hmm.
I believe she identifies as an African American.
But unless people say that, I could be West Indian and you would think that again,
We
the thi-
ask everybody, Meredith, I don't know why this is happening now. We've had these
okay, that's
three
fine.
groups.
That's my opinion.
We've had these three groups. This part isn't not new. I don't want to mislead people. The whole exhibit is, these are three key communities, not the only communities, but they're key communities to the building of the identity of Bloomfield as it is right now. And that's part of what we're saying. It's part of our story. It's what we've been saying from the beginning.
Accurate.
So if the editing of the
You can move,
language,
you can move forward. That's just my opinion. You can move forward with that. I mean, I'm gonna have an opinion about that whole, you can move forward. I'm
Well, Meredith, I think, you know what, it might be to the advantage of some of the donors or funders like the Cignas of the world, if they have this level of detail in there right now, because I know banks come out with their community development funds in January, so we really have to get to them this fall. If it's just a matter of verbiage or wordsmithing, that's something we can hammer out, on the side. But I think it's important, like we have presented by Bloomfield Humanities Committee. That's good branding there.
yes, I
people-
see that. Yeah.
Yeah, and thank you, Brian. But I get what Donna's saying, that, we've gone over this quite a bit, and we're really, in all essence, we're into October already. Forget,
Yeah.
September's gone.
You're right.
So
I know
if-
in my communication what I say. And so that's fine. The rich history and diversity of our town while sharing the story of those who make it great. Basically, I'm looking at that's Mayor Wong, but that's what I said. Also,
yeah,
I think there's some confusion with the role of the Bloomfield Humanities Committee. As I said earlier, Meredith, you weren't online when I said it, but this is one project. Hopefully there will be other projects if the Bloomfield Humanities Committee continues to be active. So this is the Bloomfield Mosaic Project is just our first opportunity to do some kind of specific project, in addition to celebrating the other groups or their celebrations like Juneteenth and the Holocaust survivors and all of those other kinds of stories. And I don't think it should be, we have to remember that the Mosaics Project is just one effort to bring.
you're right, and you're right, and you're right, and I think with my thought process, and going back with Mayor Wong and hearing, so you're right, you're absolutely right. So I will step away from the vehicle with that.
And to that point, first of all, I do have to apologize. I am also in school, so I'm heading to a class. But I do think the benefit is, right, this is an ongoing evergreen project. And so it really don't have time for wordsmithing, but even if we say that we're highlighting certain people groups now, and we have the ability to add on, right? Because that's the benefit and the beauty of a mosaic. It's broken pieces. It is never ending. It is
Right.
always growing. So that is the benefit. So
I agree, Lorraine.
And that was perfectly said, Lorraine. And for me, being from, that was perfectly said. And I guess you're right, Donna. It has been these three populations, but as somebody who's seen Bloomfield totally, to me, in a victimized state, I'm just so strong as it relates to trying to bring up those beautiful diversity complex pieces of the mosaic of the diversity of the community. But you're right, Donna. And so I'll just hold my head and keep it moving as it relates to that. But I would hope that before this goes out, the simple tweak, Brian, that of maybe some of Lorraine's language as it relates to the evergreen language, and this is the beginning, taking in Barbara's commentary, it's fine.
There's only one thing here that I would like to see changed, and it's and it's a trigger for me and many other African Americans. The use of the word where it says 3 important groups of residents, and it says our Jewish, African American. Generally speaking, when the use of our, that is a trigger for many African Americans, because that is the language used during the civil rights era to indicate ownership. It would be the outside agitators came in and roused our Negroes. They would never have, our Negroes would never, or our
Okay.
Black people, but generally speaking, it was our coloreds or our, and it's a trigger for many people,
Okay.
not just of my age group, but the use of that terminology.
Yeah.
I would say the groups of residents, the Jewish, African American, and Western. We don't need to act like we own them.
Yeah.
That's a good point, Barb.
I absolutely appreciate that. And I will change that to the right now.
Well, you would know, Brian, that it would be a trigger.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be honest, I really just took the mission statement that was the old documents from the project, but that makes a lot of sense.
So I think that we need to, Brian, rework.
But can I just also say this? We know it's 7:04, right? I know that this is one of our projects, and I'm sure we're on a time frame. We I don't know if we well, anyway, we can just go ahead. Go ahead, this process.
Meredith, with all due respect, we could have been finished with this earlier. So I understand that we are taking a lot of time, but I don't know how else to do it. We have to present everything. We have to vote on it. So we have now taken an hour to talk about this. And much of what we're saying, we've said before. I would like to ask for a vote.
You said with all due respect to what point?
To the committee that we are spending all of this time. I don't know how to make us spend less time. I don't mean for Mosaic to take up all the energy and the oxygen in the room every single time, but if we are going to restate things, I don't know how to make us move more quickly. I do think we need to move on. You have other very important things on the agenda. So can we do
Well,
a vote?
I'm thinking that we needed to review that because of the deadlines. There's a deadline coming up quickly, right?
Yeah, I mean, we would like to vote today to know that this committee is comfortable with us moving forward, meaning we will make a fix on the language here. We'll edit this document and send it out for everyone to make sure that you're comfortable. We will go make our plan for how we're going to approach the companies that I named. And then we'll go forward. We probably should have something, in 2 weeks so we can do a check-in. But we can't do anything without a vote. And I've just identified the things I think we can do on the side separate from a vote. What I'd like to ask for is a vote for going forward. And if you believe we're not ready, then we're not going to make a November 3rd grant deadline, which means we're not going to have an exhibition in April and May.
No, I believe we're ready. I just know that we have to review this document that goes out. And I think that the tour should be open to anybody, you know, your road tour should be open to the committee, you know, like you've done everything else. I don't want, you know, you and Brian are going out. Brian is our liaison, and Brian is very helpful and has been partnered with you on this movement, and you have detailed everything. Thank you for everything you've done. And I'm just I'm assuring that, restating the obvious, that will continue. This this branding that you're starting, we did want to talk about this because it's important. It's us, it's you, it's us, it's painful. I know it's painful, Donna, to go through this. I know it's painful. It's painful. But it has to be done. So maybe we can, if the concern or the issue, my only concern and issue is for this, before this goes out, for us to read it and tweak it, if need be. And then the second piece of it is just giving us the five big, if you could just give us the five big folks who you're going out to, in your projection, and we can move forward. But I don't want to vote on this. I don't want to vote on that information until we tweak it for our comfort level.
So how do we vote?
So we're moving forward. Your ask is to move forward on the funding source. That is the vote for tonight. And to the moving forward, accepting this proposal of sponsorship circles and moving forward with applying for the application. This is what I'm hearing the ask is tonight, correct? Is that the ask?
Well, it is, but
so with that ask, that's a simple ask. The sponsorship circles, the sponsorship recommendations of 5,000 to, I think it was
2,500, 1,000,
yes,
and then
that's the ask to actually confirm the sponsorship levels and to vote on moving forward to applying for the grant. Those are two major things for me, is what I thought you were needing from this population.
What I wanted from the population is more than that. I want to know that we can start contacting companies. And if the language of this needs to be re-edited and we don't want to spend any more time on it tonight, we will wait until people are
we don't have to, Donna, we don't have to wait. We can ask, we can do the ask for the finance, the funding. We can put a motion on the floor for the funding circle, the sponsorship circle. We could put a motion on the floor for the grant. And then that copy could be sent to the committee to be reviewed on people's time by a deadline, and we can do an email vote.
Okay, and that's it.
And
that's
that,
fine.
and so, I mean, we've taken, I know that, I think it's very important, again, taking into account what Steve has said and Barbara said. This, like I told you on Saturday, Phil, business manager, said we can do it. We're in our fiscal
we got approval.
right. I have been redirected related to my personal hold on certain things and my personal sentiments and all that, the trigger language and stuff. So I'm scaled all the way back. The only thing is the language, because this is going to be the beginning of our branding. Brian has edited it. Let's just give it a deadline to return it, to go through it, and then we can move on it. I mean, you guys can move on it and you'll continue to narrate. And if people are interested in getting involved, they will get involved. So moving forward, Donna, do you want to put the first vote on the floor, or I can put it
Sure.
on?
Yes, I'd
Okay.
like to make a motion that the committee accept our proposal of sponsorship circles.
I second. I'm gonna do decreased order. Anyone, is there anyone who's opposed? Any abstentions? And I'm gonna call Lorraine. I'm an abstention because she wasn't present during, well, actually, no, I don't even have to count her because we have forum. All those in favor, everyone else is in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Okay, very good.
Yes.
Yep, very good. Second motion, Donna?
Second motion is I'd like the committee to grant approval to apply for the matching grant from the Connecticut Humanities, which is due on November 3rd.
All those opposed? Abstentions? All those in favor? So
Aye.
unanimously passed.
Aye.
Now, Don, oh.
That's going to be completed by October 30th, right?
Yes.
And so Donna, I would only ask you to do what you've always done. You've inundated us with information over the emails. I would suggest that I would encourage and expect that you would continue to do that. I wanted to remind you that, thank you, Brian, for being a liaison, but also being enthusiastically engaged in this process. But I want to remind us that the committee has to be involved if they so choose to. And Donna, I know what you're thinking in your head. I put it out there and nobody responds, so I have to go. And that is absolutely the case. I think that people who want to, please continue to be due diligent with putting it out there. And if people want to participate, they will participate. If people don't want to participate, then you have our friendly, more than a liaison extension of the Bloomfield Humanities Committee, partner with you and move forward. I will say on record, when we go, you know where I want to go. I'm going to stay away from that sponsorship piece of it because but when we go to start planning the unveiling, when we go to start planning the branding, I absolutely want to be at the table. So can we?
And you will be, everyone will be.
And can we move forward to the Hispanic heritage? And we have 15 minutes. So with this Hispanic heritage, and as Brian is partnered with you as a blind BHC member, Lynn is partnered with me with a blind Hispanic heritage member. And so I understand what happens in the dynamics. We just got to pull it back. One of the reasons why I pulled it back, but Lynn and I were going through a host of emails. And when I say Lynn, Lynn always includes her department. So it's Brian and India also. When we talked in September about the letter, to do a concurrent letter with the capacity building as well as planning for the Hispanic heritage event, Barbara was given a charge, and being redundant about what happened, to do a letter, a PSA. I had opinions about the PSA. I thought it was personal, personally, a personal sentiment. I was informed that, well, there are some PSAs that have that trend. So it was tweaked a little bit. It was sent to the messenger and it did not make the messenger. That is not an unusual dynamic when you send something in a political season. That has happened to me several times before, and sometimes 2 or 3 weeks, and then he'll put it in there when it goes down. Donna has spoken to him after, and it didn't make it another week. I actually asked Donna, don't resubmit it, because of the fact that after our September meeting, I waited while that letter was being made, went back to the original sign-up sheet, and Brenda Delgado was someone who signed up. So I met with Brenda to share with her the sentiments of the committee and to have a concurrent process of this letter of invitation was going out. and to talk to her to see if she had a warm market of people who would be interested in participating in the committee. Brenda had a plethora of ideas. She's a powerhouse. She said, hey, first thing, there are a lot of people that are in this. I think we had this discussion maybe 9/13. There are a plethora of people, but there's some organizational events that are already planned in Bloomfield. Wouldn't it be nice if BHC could do a calendar? And I said, I don't know that we have the, that's labor intensive, and I don't know if we have the thought process. I mean, we have the labor to do that, but maybe since the department communications is, I call it senior sponsor, that's something that they could probably do or are already doing. She also said that, she came up with some wonderful ideas about doing a trivia, a lot of things. And I said, again, some of that stuff sounds labor intensive, and we know we're in a short period of time. We kind of we know Voices of the Community, our event was a success, and that's when she signed up, but we're kind of short on time. So we are okay with doing a smaller event. And she told me, which totally went by my head, that 9/12 she wasn't going to be here. But that totally went over my head, as well as Donna's not going to be here either.
October 12th.
I'm sorry, October 12th. So in the meantime, I sent an email to Donna to Lynn to say, can we, get a flyer? And of course she obliged, but sometimes I lose my way when I'm doing emails. So Lynn obliged and had some questions, as well as Director Rogers had some questions. Director Rogers' questions were of this nature, and anyone from the department can correct me and jump in if I'm wrong. First and foremost, she said capacity building, as well as trying to do an event and sending that messaging out, is confusing, and that we probably should take the capacity building off the table. She also wanted to identify that, and again, her responses were based on my email, and my email probably wasn't as defined as it was. Defined as it should have been. It was an email for Lynn to do a flyer, and Director Rogers just weighed in on it. She also said, and again, Director Rogers was also behind the scenes with Voices of the Community. So she also said that for the vendor that we identified, for the food, the people who we were going to do the food with, that they would have to complete a W-9 form as an official vendor. That gave me pause, because, and this is what I wanted to get clarity from you, Brian, and I also didn't want to circle back with India and Director Rogers until I had a conversation with this main group. And then she wanted to also highlight that we do have the $5,000, and we probably should be thoughtful about how we're going to use that for the year, which of course, anybody knows me, my fist is very tight anyway. So that is not an issue. So getting back to the flyer, so Lynn sent the beautiful flyer. We didn't hear any weigh-in from the masses related to the flyer, the first flyer, the first orange autumn flyer, which Lynn's motivation, I am sure, was autumn. So I asked Lynn if she could reconsider doing the flyer, go on to the website of Hispanic Heritage Month, and kind of if she could build on the themes. And she sent 2 additional flyers, two different models.
So I think I saw the orange one. I don't think
I didn't send the second 2, I don't believe, because I said all this email without giving it some foundational building would not be essential, because my first email to Lynn was not clear. So wanted to kind of have this, and I knew that was just like last week, Wednesday. So we meet until Tuesday. We're meeting Tuesday, so I might as well present where we're at before I even send the second flyers. So the capacity building, again, India's thought process was capacity building without, and you're planning an event, that kind of seems suspect.
Can I ask you a question? You talk about capacity building. I was thinking that we were asking for a volunteer for an event. Is that the same thing for you? Because capacity building, as you've used it in the past, is getting people on board to be part of our committee, which we know we can't do now until we get recommissioned.
So I'm saying capacity building for the event.
So just asking people to help us think through the event.
Right. So,
And that is what the original idea was
Right.
to ask for volunteers. It wasn't to announce an event. It was asking for volunteers. So if India is saying we're putting two things together and that's confusing, that's not what we did.
but that's not, she received it. I see.
Okay. I'm sorry. We probably don't need the explanation. I
But I
just
want to be
wanted
clear,
understand
because if you
myself.
have something in your head, I want to be clear what India, because I don't want her commentaries to be misinterpreted. I sent an email to Lynn, and I fast tracked a note to Lynn to say, hey, can you do this? Can you combine, can you put volunteers for the event, and this is the event and this is the place, and I just fast tracked it to Lynn. Lynn always includes the team, so it wasn't clear what I sent to Lynn, and Director Rogers responded and said, oh, by the way, this, and this, and this. So it was all some informal type of commentaries. I didn't even send the minutes of our meeting from you know, the outline of our meeting from Brenda to Lynn, because I was just trying to get the flyer that, as again, Donna, that you discussed, that we were looking for volunteers.
Yeah.
And I had the specifics of the event, and Lynn put it all in one flyer. She didn't get clarity from me, and Lynn and India responded to that.
Okay.
People in the department, is that what your understanding of what the email was?
Yes. Yeah, so what I did, my understanding was that we wanted a flyer for both. And so the flyer, and it sounds like you saw it, was for volunteers. And also this is when the event is.
And so again, Director Rogers said, no, that's not, you know,
Got it.
and a lot of people say, like, if you need volunteers for an event, that, so I understood her thought process. And we understood our thought process when we were doing it, but now we're here, it's 7:25, it's 2 weeks away. So wanted to kind of talk to the committee on a whole to say, not sure if we're going to get those volunteers. I think we should get those volunteers by word of mouth, which is.
Yeah. I had sent out an email about
Yeah.
approaching John De Hoyos. He did not want to get involved in planning the event, but was interested in being a possible presenter, although he still, after several emails and a personal conversation on Sunday, he still hasn't definitely said that he'll be there on October 12th. But if you want, I will continue to pursue that as one possible presenter. He's a Bloomfield business person. He's Hispanic and he celebrates his heritage.
So that's great. So David, what I wanted to do today is basically clear up any type of, you know, issues out there as it relates to what was said. Donna gave a name yesterday. A couple of days ago, you're giving a name, and I have two names. That's 4 people. Wanted to amend the flyer to take out the volunteer ask completely off the flyer, so that if we do need volunteers, believe me, but we can just do it by word of mouth, and then basically move forward with planning this event, which will be similar to Voices of the Community, but not as intensive and maybe not as large. And then the planning meetings for this is a standing meeting at 7 o'clock up until the day of the event. And I will send out that information to join a link if people want to participate in the committee.
And that's Wednesdays? You're going to do that on Wednesdays?
Yep. on 7 o'clock. Two deficits we're gonna have is Donna will not be there on the 12th and neither will Lynn. So I'm gonna tell you from the front door, we certainly need people to help decorate and or be present. Two other pieces of information that I needed to ask and get the vote on from this committee was significantly the food and the decorations. The food in the past, we have gotten a special donation from the past. This food event would require us to vote because it will be going into our budget. I would put on the table that approximately it would approximately be about $700 at the most to execute a buffet style event for I would suggest 40 to 50 people. And that would be a meat, a starch, a vegetable, and possibly a dessert and drink. The vendor that, or the store that I was going to have been talking about utilizing is a local store in town. I mean, a local store in the greater Hartford area. I am not quite sure they would adhere to the W-9 process. Brian, direct question to you is, if this bodega would not adhere to the W-9 process, is there a way that we can do an alternative payment mechanism, even if it meant that I would pay it and then we'd be reimbursed? And again, I say that because I don't know if a bodega is going to want to fill out a form to be a vendor, because that's not what they would be.
Yeah, I don't know offhand, and I don't want to give you the wrong answer, but I can
Sure.
definitely follow up in the
Follow up.
morning and I can let you know tomorrow.
And actually, is it possible? Maybe we need more concrete information. Can I give you that by Thursday so you can have the concrete information? I can confirm that that's a barrier for them. I appreciate that. So I guess the question on the table is, are people okay with taking that piece, that volunteer piece off of the flyer?
Yeah,
Sure,
I agree.
yeah.
It's too late to be asking for volunteers publicly.
Okay.
I mean,
and-
I can commit to the 12th, but the week prior, I won't be here. So I need to know the time, the place where I believe it, is it going to be at the Leisure Center?
Yes, and what would occur, what can occur after Lynn has the flyers already made? If she can just take the volunteerism off and we can send them out maybe as soon as possible. Lynn is very quick, and then you guys can vote on the flyer, and then we can
Is the event from like 5:30 to 8:30 or?
it was the same time. I think it was 6 to 8.
So I can be there around 4:30 to help set up.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And so by tomorrow, if I can just say by tomorrow at the very, I actually also wanted to do a letter to accompany the flyer that Lynn does send out. Generally, what we did it in the voices is we sent it out to the departments. We sent it out to the candidates of interest. We sent that letter out. So if you could just give me a day, I can, and I don't know how long Lynn needs, because we're not her only organization commitment, but I can craft this letter, send it out to you all for review. If you could send it back, and that would be the letter, much like the other letters that we've done, that would be the letter to send out to the department heads, and it'll also be the letter of invitation to the potential candidates. I can just let you know, David has given a candidate, Donna has given a candidate. And
Donna has not given a candidate. Donna has given the name of the person who can be a contact for that. She doesn't live in Bloomfield. She's the representative, right? Jane Garibay.
Mhm.
That's what we talked about. So I
Yep.
just want to be sure. I don't think we're asking her to be part of the panel.
I don't know if we will actually have a panel.
Okay,
Well, she's a candidate to participate in the event. She can do an introduction. But
Yeah, we may just have people come up to the mic, right?
right,
And-
so just wanted to.
Okay.
The issue
Okay.
is, we're still in the planning stages,
Okay.
so I was just giving homage to people who have brought people forward,
okay.
as well as myself. And so we can confirm the specifics, and Donna, if you could send me that name. Did you already send it to me?
Yeah, but I can send it again.
Tomorrow, and we'll be meeting every Wednesday at 7.
Would it be possible for the bodega to provide plates and napkins and things of that nature, cups?
I think that, and I don't think that would be efficient, because it is a bodega, so it is costly, but I do believe that we could probably ask the, our communications, to, in our vote or in our future walk, if they, when they do their shopping, if they could just purchase, I don't know if they have storage, but if they could just purchase those things when they do their run to wherever they go for bulk, because if we're going to do future events, they have access, they can purchase those in bulk if we ask officially and get an answer related to that. And if they have storage for our, organization.
And my only other question is it possible to have some sort of background music, or it'd be wonderful if we had a live performance, but I'm not sure if that's like a University of Hartford Art School of Music student, or I'm just putting ideas into your heads,
What a
but
great
No,
idea.
So that
Yeah.
was one of the major asks for Lynn to secure the room, was, could we stream live music? And Lynn has charged us, I'm supposed to go over to the center and look at the room that she secured. So we did ask for a live stream. No, we
Okay.
don't have the live band. It would be nice. We talked about the congos and all of that and the salsa, but we kind of, because of the short time, kind of focused on the streaming. So
yeah, that's good, as long as we have something, otherwise it'd be a very dull event.
yeah, you gotta have music when you're having a Hispanic Heritage event. So
Yes.
we gotta, if we don't have a stream, some of us will have to bring a Bluetooth large speaker. But can I just get a vote? Can I put a motion on the floor that for the Spanish, one other fiscal request, and I'm gonna put this in the vote. Brenda, and these are all the majority of Brenda's ideas, so I want to give her the credit. She said, first and foremost, before we even met, she's like, we got to have the Hispanic Heritage flags. And I said, oh my goodness, I have them for my other organization. The Hispanic Heritage flag, she was suggesting that we should get. And I said, yeah, it would be nice for us to get them for the town and put them downstairs in the town hall, as well as in this event. Those flags are like anywhere between $11 to $15 on Amazon. So I was wondering, Brian, once we execute this vote for $750, 725 being the food, and the 25 being I'm sorry, 700 being the food, and the $50 being our plates, utensils, and the decorations being the flags. If this vote carries, is it possible that Lynn or yourself or Director Rogers, can you use your account to purchase with our money, purchase the Amazon flags, Hispanic Heritage flags, and
Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem, as long as we get the vote from the group authorizing the funds, knowing that they're going to be charged back to the Humanities committee. We could help you with that purchase.
Okay. And can you say that you'll be the storer of those flags for next year?
I got
Okay.
you. Yep.
So I'd like to put a motion that we do a vote, and I will again, I don't know if I sent the minutes, I may have, on the floor, to have a budget of $700 for a light family dinner and $50 for decorations for the Hispanic Heritage event on October 12th.
Second,
Anyone opposed? Abstained? Abstentions? Unanimously carried. So flyer, letter, we'll send you. And then I'll see whoever wants to do this fast track on tomorrow at 7, and I will send you the Zoom link.
Can I just add one thing?
Mhm.
So I can resend if you want the room reservation form. So the room is available, but it just needs to be filled out by either you or someone from the subcommittee when you do the walkthrough, just to make sure that the concern is that all the parties are on the same page for what is provided and what the committee will be bringing in.
Yes, thank you. If you could resend that, that would be great. And I will go over there Thursday and bring that.
Meredith,
Yes.
what do you want put in the messenger? Anything this week? Do you want the flyer? No, nothing?
Because
Okay.
I can't turn it around by
Okay.
and yeah, and we have more specific information. And
Okay.
so let's meet tomorrow. Whoever comes to the meeting tomorrow, we can clean it up and I'll have a draft and can send it out.
So
to
we do
everybody.
it, we do something next week, probably.
Probably. Yeah.
Okay.
Also just wanted to talk about, thank you all for everything you've done, and your commitment, and want to encourage you to continue to look in these emails. I can't read emails during the day. I'm getting screen fatigue, and everything else, being overwhelmed. But please, I would encourage you to look in the emails to read the information that's going to come out for Donna and Bloomfield Mosaic, the information that Brian started editing tonight. If you want to have a voice, please respond, because again, Donna's going to be looking for that vote. So, and hopefully when it comes out, Donna, when you send it back out to us, can you give us a deadline to return
Yes.
the vote?
Yep.
And everything else. I don't want to, and please also with the Hispanic Heritage letter that we do, please look at that so you can also return the vote, because this event will be going on before we have another committee meeting. All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Let's think about October and/or November. Let's think about getting together in person so that we can do a picture, because we have not been in the quarterly newsletter at all. I don't even know if the quarterly newsletter is even relevant now, since we get weekly updates from Brian, what is I always say the communications department. What's the strategic? I say communications and strategic planning. What is the actual?
Strategic communication and government affairs.
See, I didn't put two. Okay, but anyway, we certainly want to do a picture so that can go out. But does the quarterly newsletter still go out too?
It does. We have not had boards and commission spotlights in the last couple, just because we've struggled to get some input. But obviously, we'll always bring things back, and we have our weekly e-newsletter, and we have our website, and our website would look great with a group photo on it. So that sounds great.
So let's think about it in the future. Let's think about that for October, and to plan something to do that. So thank you all.
Meredith, can we do the last time you just mentioned that there's a possibility to do a virtual, not to move away from virtual meetings and to either do a hybrid or maybe in person. I would very much like to be in person if we can.
Okay, so it's 7:42. I certainly believe that we should do an in-person visit soon, in-person meeting soon. And certainly we should put that on the agenda, Donna, for a real discussion on, do people want to do hybrid or go completely in person? I'm going to tell you that I would go for the hybrid model because we are going up in COVID, but certainly we should put that conversation on the table. I certainly would like to see you all in person. So let's put that on the table for discussion in October.
And I will say that I believe that that's going to be a very large discussion of the new town council when they get seated in November, is what to kind of do with the remote hybrid in-person setting. So some of it might get decided for us.
Okay.
But I know it's definitely in their minds of kind of what to do with these different meeting types.
Can I say then, can we postpone and Lynn not put any, I mean, my suggestion then to you, Meredith, and with Brian's input, maybe we don't bother taking time in our October meeting. Let's wait and see if the council makes some decision. Yeah.
Well, I do think, can we fall somewhere in the middle where we can talk about being in person definitely for a holiday social, so we can capture this picture? People, I'm all about the visual now. We do need to, organize, because some of you all are very glamorous. And so we do need to organize a time for us all to get together. So let's find the truth somewhere in the middle. But thank you guys for taking the time out. 7:43. I think we spent a lot of time. I will certainly, Donna, we can talk about the agenda for October and how that looks as it relates to the ask for the holiday picture and holiday event, and maybe, a gathering of us all together with a potluck or something, who knows. But anyway, enjoy. And I will see, I'm sure, many of you tomorrow at 7 o'clock for the planning of the Hispanic